This week on the Gonez show, is the government struggling handling this COVID-19 situation? And could they be distracting us? Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about it. Plus, could housing in Toronto and other big cities across this country actually start becoming affordable? Also, how honest is too honest? A Montreal restaurant owner reveals his top secret recipe, and trust me, this story is good. Plus, we head to Scarborough for your voice, and we talk about understanding biracial identity in Open and Honest. This show is packed, so sit back, relax. The Gonez show starts right now. Hey BGSquad, I'm your host Gonez, and we made it to episode 2. And it's a big deal because some people didn't think we would make it here. Some people didn't even think we'd get episode 1 out. But we made it! All right, here's what I need you to do. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, tap that notification bell, and follow us on all of our socials. You know what time it is. It's time for News You Can Use. Now, we got some big news to talk about, especially down south. You know that man? He's out. A new man is in, and a woman is in as well. We need to shout out Kamala Harris because she is our new vice president. She's not only a black woman, she's a South Asian woman. And get this, she has Yadi roots too. Yes, that's a big deal. So let's big up history, or shall we call it her story. Now listen, the other big news that we're talking about is this pandemic. We know this is the big story every single week. But the question for you this week is our government handling COVID-19 properly? And the reason it's a big question is because the other big news that came out this week is that there are no Pfizer vaccines. I'm talking zip, nada, that will be arriving in Canada this week. And it's all because the pharmaceutical company, they're now dealing with production issues at their plant in Belgium. In fact, take a look at your screen right now because Pfizer, they delivered about 124,000 doses in the first week of January to Canada, and they were expected to ship upwards of 208,000 doses every single week to our country throughout January. Those numbers, no, they're up in the air. In fact, we don't even know what it's gonna look like in the weeks ahead. And already provinces, they are scrambling. Here in Toronto, for example, at the Metro Toronto Convention Center, they set up this vaccination clinic that had to close after being open for just 2 days.
Why?
Because we don't have enough doses. We're running out. In fact, some provinces have already run out of the vaccine. Ontario's Premier, Doug Ford, he's one of those premiers that's not only mad, he's big mad. In fact, he recently was asked about this, and he said if he was in the Prime Minister's shoes, he'd be calling the CEO of Pfizer immediately. Take a listen.
If I was in his shoes, I'm sure he is doing it, but I'd be on that phone call every single day. I'd be up that guy's yin-yang so far with a firecracker, he wouldn't know what hit him from Pfizer. I would not stop until we get these vaccines.
All right, here's the thing though. Not everybody's happy with this man's choice of words. In fact, some people found it a little bit disgusting. I'm talking about Toronto City Councillor Kristen Wong-Tam. She actually went to Twitter and she wrote this. Look at your screen right now. She went on to say this: a premier threatening someone with violence is repugnant. She went on to say sexual violence is repugnant. Calling it out is not. Words matter. And here's the thing. Some people do agree with this city councillor. However, other people don't necessarily see it that way. In fact, they kind of agree with the premier himself. But this also isn't the first time Premier Doug Ford has used these flashy catchphrases to grab our attention. You might remember the time he said this. Take a listen.
But then we have, a bunch of yahoos out in the front of Queen's Park sitting there protesting that the place isn't open.
And I'm just gonna pat myself on the back because yours truly was the one who asked him that question. But listen, you know what we're not talking about? We're not talking about the fact that there is a severe situation happening in our long-term care homes. In fact, Ontario's for-profit nursing homes have a 78% more COVID-19 deaths than non-profit long-term care homes. You know what we're also not talking about? The fact that there's no provincially mandated paid sick days for people and workers who need them during this time. And you know what's also crazy, Dakota, is that public health officials have come out and said time and time again that one way to really combat and stop the spread of this virus is to ensure people can stay home if they're sick, so they don't have to worry about not having a paycheck.
Exactly.
So it's why we pose this question to you. Do you think the government is handling the COVID-19 pandemic properly? Let us know in the comment section. We love when you sound off. But listen, a new report is showing that Toronto's rental apartment vacancy rate has hit a new record high in the last quarter of 2020. So up. I want you to take a look at your screen because a survey reported that the vacancy rate is now 5.7% as of the fourth quarter of 2020. And just for a bit of extra context there, that's a 50-year high. And guess what it's doing to prices? It's dropping it low. Easy, right? I'm getting too into it. Say that for the OnlyFans? No, subscription. Revenue. Okay, but listen, it's not just happening here in Toronto, it's happening right across the country. Look at this stat. In fact, the average rent for all Canadian properties listed on rentals.ca in December was down nearly 7%. So you're probably wondering, what's causing this all to happen?
And I remember you, Brandon, talking about workers and professionals in downtown Toronto working through the pandemic, not even being able to afford to live in Toronto.
Exactly.
So this is wild and gives them the opportunity to do so.
It does. And it's also a contributing factor to why we're seeing a higher vacancy rate in apartment rentals, because people necessarily don't have to be downtown anymore. They don't have to live close to where they work. They can be in Timbuktu and be on their laptops, like the notes that I'm reading right now. I read the comments. Yeah, we're like, where's this guy looking? I'm looking at my laptop for the notes.
Exactly.
Making sure that facts on facts on facts. Facts on facts on facts.
Imagine working from the Bahamas.
What are you trying to tell us?
Imagine.
What are you trying to tell us? By the way, we're on a skeleton crew right now because of COVID, hence why you're only hearing 2 or 3 people talk. But once it's all done, listen, our team is not big, but we're mighty. Not big, but we're mighty. But here's the thing, there's a couple of other things that's leading to this higher vacancy rate. One of those things, low immigration, and that's due to COVID. The government has kind of had to close down the borders, as we know. High unemployment, people have been laid off or temporarily laid off, left, right, and center. And the last point is actually the completion of a lot more condos and apartments. In fact, over the last several years, we've been building a record amount of condos and new apartments. So basically, when you have an increase of supply and a decrease of demand, what happens? Lower prices. So there's some positives to that. Think for millennials or Gen Zers, first-time home buyers who've been priced out of the market.
They can finally leave their parents' house.
Finally. Parent supplies. And that's can be looked at as a good thing. The other side of that, though, is some people are going to be negatively affected. And I think about families who've maybe saved up their life savings and they may have poured that into an investment condo property. And now with the decrease in rents, they can't get enough rent to make up their mortgage payment. That's a reality that a lot of people could be facing over the coming months. It's really something to think about. But again, the question is, what do you think about this? Do you think this is good for cities? Have you ever wanted to live in a big city but couldn't afford it? Let us know. Get a little sloppy there in the comment section. Chime off. We'll regulate. Speaking about big cities, we know one of the perks about living in a big city is obviously the good restaurants, the tasty restaurants. Some people love Chinese food. Cameraman Chris, own it.
I do love me some Chinese food. Still.
We know, we see it on your gut. I'm joking. Cameraman Chris is fit. No cuts. It's live, baby, live to tape. But there's this Chinese restaurant in Montreal that has gone viral because their menu is being considered a little too honest. Let me explain. So basically the owner is trying to drum up a lot of business because he's being very, very transparent with his customers that not all the items on the menu taste good. So you know what he's doing? He's actually putting that honest opinion on the menu. Take a listen.
If I don't like it, I tell people I don't like it that much. Some items I bragged a little bit, so for me it's just very natural for me.
And it's actually really interesting because I want to read out some of the examples for you. So when he talks about his orange beef, which is on the menu, he goes on to say this, and I quote, "It's not that good, but it's your call." Okay.
I'm not surprised because I never heard of orange beef. I heard of orange chicken though.
We know you know.
We know you know.
He also went on to this when describing the sauté sauce beef. He says, "I just haven't tried it yet." So who's gonna try it?
He hasn't tasted his own food?
No, but that's the thing. It's an interesting marketing ploy because we know that small businesses, especially restaurants, they've been severely affected during this pandemic. So any attention that they can get is likely good attention. Hopefully that will mean dollar bills in their tills. Because this guy, for example, he's been on Global News, he's been on the Today Show in the States, and he made it to the Brandon Gonez Show. And listen, no, we did some investigating here, eh? We did some investigating here on this restaurant. Yeah, we have the bureau, and they're stacked and they're packed. And we checked out this restaurant rating on Google. Aunt Di, which is the name of the restaurant, 4.5 star. Okay? And I think that's pretty good. But this restaurant owner, he's so humble that he had this to say. Listen.
We try to be better, but we are not that good. So we kind of, the above average.
I think at the end of the day, anyhow a small restaurant can get business, let's applaud them for that because we want to see them stay open during these times. So let us know in the comment section. Let's give them a bit of spotlight. What's your favorite restaurant to go to? Which restaurant have you been ordering from during this pandemic? Put that in the comment section right now, and then maybe you can send us a little Uber Eats order. BG Squad, take care of your boy. That's your news you can use for the week. Hey BG Squad, on this week's Your Voice, we wanted to venture out to the East End, to Scarborough. Because according to the City of Toronto's COVID-19 numbers, some neighborhoods, like right here in Malvern, are considered a COVID-19 hotspot. But what does that mean to people who live here and their everyday lives? Let's find out. So talk to me, how has COVID-19 affected you?
It's miserable. I'm widowed, I'm retired, and it's been tough not seeing my friends. It's hard because my parents are both old. They're in homes, one in a retirement home, one in nursing home. Mm-hmm. Can't see them, can't take them out, can't do anything. I'm a real family-oriented person. I have an elderly mother, but luckily she's in her own home, so I'm able to see her occasionally. I can go to a grocery store, a pharmacy, be with strangers, but I can't be with my own family. Like, to me, that's the hardest part, not seeing my family.
One of the reasons why we're here actually in Scarborough is because when you look at the COVID-19 numbers, in particular like here in Malvern, it's considered a hotspot in the city.
So I've heard.
I don't think Scarborough's any different than anywhere else. And what's a hot spot? Is it because we've got the numbers and they've proven it? Or is it because everybody always thinks the worst of Scarborough? And I refuse to believe that.
What do you do? Are you an essential worker?
Yeah, I work for Leon's Furniture. Right now we're trying to deliver goods to people.
Yeah.
Furniture, appliances. And because there's a lot of people actually moving in and moving out right now.
Yeah.
So we're like, my center actually is the big Scarborough center, so it's the last one that's really up and running. So we're trying to do like most of the deliveries for the other centers because they are shut down at the moment. So we're like the last line of help right now when it comes to that stuff.
Do you find that there are a lot of essential workers that live in Scarborough?
Yeah. I feel like a lot of the essential workers do live in Scarborough.
Plus, there's a lot of multi-families in Scarborough. And if you're living all together under one roof, and you're going to all different places, it's easier to spread the disease. And I think that's another thing for lower income families and multicultural families. They live grandma, aunt, uncle in one house. So they're saying, that's not safe because you're going to this job, you're going to this job, but they have to work. So
they have to put food on their tables.
Yeah. And I think the low-income housing, I know we've got quite a percentage in that, but I think that everywhere in the city, it's a big city, unless you live outside and in an area where there aren't that many apartments, it can't be helped.
I feel like we should really look at this whole lockdown thing and actually do it the right way.
Yeah.
Because I feel like what the government has done is more just follow what other governments are doing and then just picking up the slack afterwards. So they're just like filling in the blanks. Like now they're doing this lockdown now, just stay at home at 8 and all that. I feel like if they're gonna do that, they should have just closed down everything, have us like get stuff for a good like 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, and just stay where we are, stay secure, and then come outside and then see how it is. Not just have us all still commuting and all that stuff. Because I feel like that's not helping the numbers whatsoever. It's just adding more than subtracting.
The minute you say Scarborough, people seem to think, oh my God, and they think of the apartments, they think, I don't know if they think we're animals or that we're not doing what we need to do, but I don't agree with that.
And that's really one of the things that I wanted to touch on.
Yes.
Is the fact that there are certain challenges for certain people in,
Yes.
in certain parts of the city that sometimes don't get talked about.
That's right.
It is the borough, like it is part of Toronto, but it is also its own thing. That's how I feel about it, you know?
I lived in Scarborough 35 years and I love it.
Yay, Scarborough.
Yay, Scarborough. To the people of Scarborough, thanks for talking with us, and be safe. BG Squad, on this week's Open and Honest, we wanted to talk about the topic of identity and how that can play into how we operate in our everyday lives. In fact, we recently spoke to one young woman who went viral on TikTok speaking about this exact topic.
I just got done crying because I had a fight with one of my family members. I just want to come on here and say, black men and white women, please stop fetishizing each other and having children.
Her name is Dominique Clark, and she uses her TikTok page to talk about her reality of being biracial. But she also discusses topics like fetishization and how light-skinned proximity to whiteness can come with its privileges. Folks, it's time to get open and honest.
You guys bring children into this world with no intention of actually supporting them how they need to be supported. And a lot of the times the random ass white girl that you choose to knock up is racist, and so is her family. You're bringing a black child into this world with one parent that cannot relate to them, doesn't know what it's like to be them. They're a white person, not even a person of color. And when these relationships are based on fetishes, obviously that white person has no intention of learning about black identity or doing anything to be anti-racist or support their children.
So let's talk about that TikTok video, because it did get hundreds of thousands of views. So I would love to know what led you to want to make the video. What was going through your mind at the time?
So right before that video, I had actually just gotten into a fight with one of my white family members. I was feeling very emotionally distraught. And as soon as I was able to collect myself, I came online and I just started filming. I think when we're speaking about these issues, it's very important to show some emotional vulnerability sometimes. I was actually very careful with my choice of words because a lot of people may see my content and think that I'm just against interracial relationships, but that's absolutely not the case. I'm against fetishization.
You know, when you talked about fetishizing each other, you brought up the fact that there were people who kind of confused real love with fetishization. Explain to us the difference.
Fetishization starts with racial preference. The biggest distinguishing factor is people that state that they only date this type of person. That to me will always be a fetish. If you're a black man and you tell me you only date white girls, that's a fetish. If you're a white woman and you tell me you only date black guys, that's a fetish automatically to me.
That moment of raw emotion that we witnessed on TikTok.
It's so frustrating to have to deal with constant racial gaslighting and erasure of my identity.
Is that derived, or did that stem from the difficulty of having to pick a side sometimes, being biracial?
You know, a lot of people have this kind of, I feel like I don't fit into either category. I do feel like I fit in with the black community. And that's partially because of the way that like I'm perceived. I'm perceived as a black person still, at least part black. A lot of mixed people are white passing or racially ambiguous. So my experience navigating this world, everybody that sees me knows that I'm at least part black. But where that like dissonance comes from is a lot of racial gaslighting goes along, you know, that wasn't racist. You just caused racist situations to happen to yourself because you make everything about black and white, or, you know, why are you trying to yell at me about race when I didn't own slaves? Like, stuff like that from my family members is said to me. So that, you know, that's still your family. So that creates a mental roadblock of like questioning everything about yourself. Like, is my activism even the right thing that I should be doing?
Can I ask you a personal question?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any resentment to either side of your family based off of how they've treated you or viewed you as a mixed race person?
Yes. To be honest, yes. And that's a big thing. What I get from them is that they want me, but they don't want my blackness to be a part of that. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to anybody to do that.
Do you think the experience is different if you're a mixed race female compared to a mixed race male?
I've actually thought a lot about this. And I'm not quite sure, because I know that's something that was very much missing in my life, was just having a black mother in general.
Or what do you believe you were missing not having a black mother?
So my father has a sister, and she passed away when I was in middle school. She played the role of my black mother. One of the biggest things for me is how successful and hardworking she was, and the amount of work that you have to do to be successful as a black person in this country is very different than the amount of work you have to do as a white person.
But do you ever find, and tell me if you're comfortable answering this question, being biracial and having that proximity to whiteness does come with some privileges?
Absolutely.
And for some people who may not have that proximity, it can be hard to empathize when you're comparing this different struggles that people of color, all people of color go through, but in particular, people with darker shades of skin tone.
Yeah.
Does that ever run across your mind?
Yeah. And see, one of the main focuses of my page too is that a lot of these issues, a lot of black issues, but a lot of mixed people can be colorists, can have internalized racism, can just be anti-black in general, and I see that often. So as a part of my platform, I make sure that I address all of these things.
As the lighter skinned girls to stop discrediting the experiences of darker skinned girls.
In her video, she's speaking about colorism and how light skinned women often discredit the experiences of darker skinned women, and she's absolutely correct. Once I learned what colorism was when I was younger, I started paying attention more. Being light skinned is not a compliment. It does not make you pretty. Check yourself, please.
We love to leave on a positive note on this show. So is there anything you would like to say to any biracial person who may be dealing with some self issues or family issues relating to their, the different sides of their families? What would you tell them?
I would just tell them that you're not alone, and that there are tons and tons of people going through the same thing as you. When I was younger, no one was talking about this, and being biracial is still a fairly new thing. Honestly, it's becoming more popularized. So sometimes when people aren't talking about these issues and you don't know any other people that are biracial, you feel very much invalidated, and like what you're going through doesn't matter, and it's just, something absurd. But your feelings are valid, what you're going through is valid, and there are people that are going to support you and uplift you in your voice.
Dom, thank you so much for taking this time to speak with us. We really appreciate you being open and honest.
Wow, wasn't that an interesting conversation? Dominique was great, but I would really love to know, how did that make you feel? Let us know in the comment section, because this is an ongoing conversation we're going to have. In fact, we spoke with a few other people about this exact topic, and we have those extended interviews. You can find them on our YouTube page. And listen, if you have a story relating to this that you want to share, send it to us. news@brandongonezshow.com. All right, up next, good news. All right, it's one of our favorite times of the show, and I know you guys love this segment, Good News. And I love this segment because we get to highlight people who are doing amazing things. Like this little girl who beat the odds and is now giving back. Watch this.
I'm Super Sophia. Challenge you to spread some love. Bye, guys.
Wasn't that so cute? Like, isn't Sophia just super?
She's amazing.
She is, isn't she?
So cute.
I hope I get to actually meet her one day. We'll bring her on the show once COVID is all clear. But listen, it's time to come to an end. We gotta wrap this up, and I gotta go to my bed. We do wanna thank you so much for watching the show. Know that if you have any stories, hit us up, news@BrandonGonezShow.com. And remember this, BG Squad, we love you for watching. We'll see you same place, same time next week.